right, Carl Ford has volunteered to open us with prayer, so here he is.
Let's pray. Father God, we thank you for this day, this time together. We thank you for the rain you sent our way today. We praise you for this night. We thank you for the food you provide for us. We thank you for this group of people who are concerned about our community. Thank you for letting us be here tonight. God, direct our thoughts and words, Father. We love you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Now for the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're having a county commissioners forum this evening. 3 of the 8 candidates running have chosen to come and talk to you guys this evening. All right, the candidates in no particular order are David Rouge. Would you please come up, sir? Joe Coladorsey. And Jim Sods. You guys can all have a seat at the table.
You're going to have to do introductions.
Yeah, y'all can just stand up and introduce yourselves.
You want to go first?
I'm David Rouge, and of course I'm running for the Rowan County Commission on the Republican ticket. Certainly thank you for the invite to come out tonight. Anytime that you have a gathering of people that are interested in government, interested in change, interested in voting, that says something about that's better. Anyway, that says something about you as well as it does the process. And in terms of the campaign that's going to be winding down in a couple of weeks, and the decision for the commissioners rests with individuals just like you. So I hope that you are paying attention to the differences that the candidates have in their platform. You know, there's a lot of the issues that are being discussed, and all of it affects us, affects you, me, children. So anyway, I hope that in the coming election, you'll remember to vote for Dave Rouge on May 6th. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Joe Coladorsey. I'm also running for County Commissioner. I'm hoping to get as many votes here as I can. There's some other places where I probably won't get too many. I'm better at answering questions than I am speaking, so I hope that you will have some good questions for us tonight, and I look forward to sharing my thoughts with you. Thank you.
I'm Jim Sides. I'm glad to be here tonight. I'm a candidate for Rowan County Commissioners. I'm asking you to let me serve 2 consecutive terms. I've lost as many elections as I've won. I'd like to break the record. Some other people have set records in Rowan County this year. I want to set one. I want to make them very unhappy on election night. You know, Paul said in Romans chapter 1 and verse 16, he said, "For I'm not ashamed of the gospel of Christ, for it's the power of God and the salvation to everyone that believeth, the Jew first and also the Greek." I don't understand why some people seem to be ashamed of the Tea Party. I know what I stand for, I know what I believe, and I'm not ashamed of it. And I'm a card-carrying, dues-paying member of the Tea Party, and I'm proud of it. Somebody sent out an email this week. I hope everybody in here got one. I hope you took the time to read it. 15 core beliefs that are not negotiable that the Tea Party stands for. And I'm telling you folks, I can tell you tonight why I'm a Republican. I can tell you why I'm a Baptist. I can tell you why I'm a Christian. And I can tell you why I'm a Tea Party member. I think that the resistance people ought to find another party to join, and it's the Tea Party. Because we stand for the rights of America. We stand for the right thing. And I believe they're fighting for the wrong thing. If they were running because they had the answers to fix all the problems in Rowan County, I'd be supporting them. But they're running for one purpose, and one purpose only. Number one, to make sure that I don't get elected. Number two, to make sure Joe doesn't get elected. The election this year will be real easy for you when you go to the polls and you take that ballot. Vote for the first guy on the list. Skip 5 and vote for the next guy. Real simple. I don't know how I can make it any simpler. Vote for the first guy, skip 5, and vote for the next guy. And you'll win in this election, because let me tell you what's at stake. All these people telling you about all these great things they're going to do. Things cost money, and there ain't no money left. The only way they're going to do anything that they promise is to raise taxes. We have been a very, very conservative board for the last 10 years. You've seen one tax increase in 10 years. That was 1/4 cent that you and other people voted for that had to do with the RCCC bond. You approved 1 1/4 cent tax increase to pay for those bonds. We put in 1/4 cent of that 1 1/4 cent. We may have to put in the other penny this year. I don't know. But you've not seen a real tax increase in 10 years, because what we've done is what you've had to do at your house. We've spent the money we had in savings. We've cut back on the number of employees. We've cut back on services that did not affect you. We've done everything that we can do, and we've done that for 10 years. We're probably at the end of the road. I personally believe there's a way that we can get by this year without a tax increase. Folks, you need to talk to the other guys on that board, because those 4 people are going to have a vote. And if I don't get 2 of them to vote with me, you're going to have a tax increase. So talk to them. Get me a little bit of help, because it's easier to get 38,000 votes and get elected than it is to get 2 votes when you get up there. And that's the one thing those other guys are going to find out if they're lucky enough to get elected. It's like herding cats. I want another 4-year term. There are a lot of members of my family don't want me to have it. My grandkids want me to take them to Disney World for 3 weeks, and they want me to pay for all of it. Folks, I won't leave Rowan County for a week if there's anything going on. I take this job seriously. You ask my wife when I'm at home. You ask those 2 clerks up there to the board when I'm in the office, how much I'm up there. I take the job seriously because I care about what happens in Rowan County. This is my home too. If I vote for a tax increase, I get the tax increase, and I don't want one. So vote for Jim Sides, number 1 on the ballot, and then skip down 5 and vote for the next guy. I'm not even going to tell you who it is.
Okay, we're going to take questions from the crowd, and you ask the question, and all 3 will have a chance to answer. Anybody, any questions?
My understanding is that you were opposed to the, let's get this right, the West End Plaza. Is that correct, sir?
Yes.
What would your position be if more down the road, the central office building was put up there with the school system at a savings of $3.5 million to the taxpayers? Would you change your position at that time?
Well, supposition and fact are 2 different things. But before I answer that, let me say that I am not number 5 on the ballot. I would be number 2. But back to your question.
And when you talk about moving the central office down there, you have to look at what it's going to cost. You have to look at the factors related to it. How does this factor into what you are going to pay? How does that look for the future? what does that plan mean? What is the succession plan for the West End Plaza?
Use
So
your
when you get that
microphone.
laid out, what?
Use the microphone so we can hear you.
So when you have that laid out, then it might be easy to answer that question. But to sit here and say, I have a long-term plan for it, I don't. It's just a plan you have to work on if it's going to come to fruition. But the main thing about it is, if you're going to do this, you have to have cooperation. You have to have a little respect, whether you like the person or not. And you might ask yourself, why aren't the other candidates here? And why did I show up? Well, the reason is because I don't like people to tell me what I'm going to do, what I'm not going to do. I wanted to come out here and see for myself what the Tea Party is about. So, if there's any one single message that you want to carry out there, you tell them that David Roosh is his own man. I don't fabricate to anybody, and I don't pander to any one group. If I'm elected, I'm going to represent the people of Rowan County to the best of my ability. But there's one thing I won't tolerate, and that's bad manners. Because I don't have them, and I don't do that. There you go.
I'm not going to stand because, quite frankly, I don't feel very well today, so I'm going to remain seated if that's all right with everyone. The West End Plaza is, I've spoken about on many times and I've written about. You can go to my website and see what I've had to say. I believe the most logical place to put the school board still is, in fact, in the Belts building. And I've even written something about that. That would allow us to have 20,000 square feet on the first floor and 40,000 square feet on the second floor, very much like the new building will have 20,000 square feet on each floor. So you put the backroom offices on the second floor. That's a very typical thing to do. Our county manager is presently renovating some property, and they estimate a cost up at the mall, and they estimate a cost of $50 a square foot. I say $60 so that you can gild the lily, okay? Really make it nice. Add $600,000 to the price tag. The school board could move into that building for $3.6 million. That's $2,900,000 less than the county's given them. That means we can do other things with the money, to do other things with our properties, the school board's properties, and improve other places. I'm a firm believer in giving the people that work for the school board an adequate, quality place to work. That particular building, look out across through the windows, guys. It's impressive. And done right, it can be very impressive. That's one of the things that the people from the school board have said they wanted. They wanted a good, quality-looking building. So I'm hoping that some of the folks will get together. We'll have people running, and along with Chuck and Josh, in the future, we may be able to make a move that makes sense. That makes sense for the people of Rowan County. So that's my school board thing.
I think most of you know how I feel about the mall. I'm the one signed the check. We bought it. There was not time to put it on the ballot and let the people vote on it like some people wanted us to do. You elect representatives to make decisions for you. You elected 5 commissioners. Now, I didn't vote by myself to buy the mall. If you go back and check the records, there were 3 other commissioners thought it was a good idea. And usually, if you elect 5 commissioners and 4 of them agree on something, usually the people in Rowan County will go along with it. Maybe this time I'm completely off base, and maybe they won't support us. But I personally think if you'll give us 4 or 5 years, and that's the reason I want another term, if you'll give us 4 or 5 years to work on that mall and do the things that we have in mind. Now, we've only owned it 4 months. No, we don't have a big master plan that goes out 20 years. I bought a piece of property in 1983, didn't know exactly what I was going to do with it, thought it was a pretty good deal. But over a period of time, I developed a plan along with 2 other fellows, and we built a mobile home park, and we just sold it for $500,000. So I think it was a pretty good idea. It worked out fairly well. I don't know exactly, any more than the people who are naysayers, exactly what we'll do with the mall, but we're in the process of developing a plan right now. We've hired an agency. We do a capital improvement plan for Rowan County about every 10 years. It's time for us to do one now. So that's what we're looking at. We're identifying where we have space needs over the next 5 to 10 years. We have some immediate needs that we're meeting right now by moving the Board of Elections and the Veteran Service Office to the plaza. We have a need that was identified in 2005 for a storage area for the sheriff. If you were the sheriff and you had to store evidence the way he has to store it, and then be able to retrieve it when a court case comes up, and you lose evidence and you have to let the people go, you wouldn't like it. And he doesn't like it either. He needs more space. That was identified in 2005. It was identified as a $1.5, $1.7 million warehouse. We can put him over there in what used to be the big lots building for probably $20,000, $25,000, $30,000 and give him more space than he would have had in that warehouse. We're also looking at transportation. You see the Rita vans running around all over town. We're in charge of that transportation. We may move them over there. We're not moving the court system, but there is a possibility that we could move some of the employees that are at 402 North Main Street out of that building to the mall, freeing up space there. We're paying over $100,000 a year right now to rent space for the probation officers for the state, which we have to provide them space. If we could move them into that space and move the other people over here, we would accomplish 2 things. We would put more people in the mall and make this side of the county and this side of the city a little more viable. And we're not moving that many people out of town, but we're getting rid of $100 and some thousand a year that we're paying in rent. So it's a trade-off. I'm telling you, you give us 5 years, you'll be, if you're one of the naysayers now, you give us 5 years, you'll be glad we bought the mall because it will save money. It's a simple mathematical truth that to build a new building is around $120 a square foot. To renovate an existing building, especially one that's only 27 years old, is about 60, maybe 70. It could be even as high as $80 a square foot. But I took a few years of math in high school and in grammar in earlier years, and 120 has always been greater than 80. It's always been greater than 70. It's always been twice as much as 60. So if we can renovate space, if we can identify space needs that we have and we can renovate existing space for $60 instead of spending $120, it makes sense that we're going to save you money. It's not going to happen overnight. It wasn't purchased with that in mind. It was purchased as a long-term investment. We don't want to see this side of the county. This is a gateway going into Salisbury. This is a major thoroughfare, Highway 70. We didn't want to see it become a dilapidated, run-down mall. We will develop it over a period of time, and 5 years from now, you'll be glad we did. Thank you.
All right, who has a question on this side? Right back there. All right.
My question is about the airport. The county has acquired the control of the airport, but I've heard talk about the city trying to get it back, and I'm just wondering how hard you're going to fight to keep control of it away from the city so that it can continue to make money. Did you hear that?
Well, I think it says Rowan County Airport. So from my perspective, it's Rowan County Airport. So the airport has operated for years. Some of you may remember Lindsay Hess. Years ago, Lindsay had a vision for Rowan County. He had a vision for the airport. Talked about hangars, talked about revenue off the hangars, talked about the extension of the runways, discussed all these things that would help bring business and spur the economy in the county. So to me, when you talk about the airport should support the county. It shouldn't be a city's airport. It should remain and stay Rowan County Airport, and I believe that the airport board needs to be accountable for their ideas and anything that takes place in the airport out there in terms of additional building or additional space, or if they think the runway needs to be expanded to compete with Concord or even Lexington, then I think that's a business decision. If it is something that makes sense and it returns revenue to the county, then I'm in favor of that. But that's my take on the airport.
Well, I've been here, as you all know, only 3.5 years, but one of the things I did when I first came here was join the Tea Party, having been a member in New Jersey, and the Republican Party. But I also did my research. I tried to learn what the lay of the land was. And I think the question is more about the fact that in 2004, the city annexed the airport. And what he wants to know is, are they going to try and annex it again? In the last annexation, they took $500,000 over 10 years, $1 million over 10 years out of the airport in taxes to the city. They cut at that rate because of the accommodations that had to be made. There's a whole history of what happened here. A fellow owns a jet. He cost $10 million. He's paying 62 cents a hundred. The city of Salisbury annexed the airport, doesn't even tell the president at the time in 2004, doesn't even tell the county commissioners that they're doing it. They just simply did it. And then they notified them that it had happened. Well, that automatically makes that jet owner pay $1.24. The jet owner, the funny thing about jets is they have wings and wheels and engines. They can simply fly away. So they had to make an accommodation, and each side, the county and the city, dropped the rate by 20 cents. What that means, folks, is every county resident subsidized the city of Salisbury to the tune of 20 cents a hundred, about $500,000 over 10 years. It also means that the city of Salisbury collected from these jet owners $1 million over 10 years, about $100,000 a year. But more importantly, it stifled the growth of the airport because someone looking to fly a jet in and park it there and keep it and what have you is looking at 80 cents instead of 62 cents. So you're now only competitive with the other airports. Also, the city of Salisbury, and one of the reasons why the state allowed the county to de-annex it, was the fact that the city of Salisbury had not put dime one back into the airport. Not dime one, okay? So our Carl Ford and Harry Warren and Brock and a couple other people helped the county commissioners to claw back the airport, which was the best thing that happened in a long time to Rowan County. Your fears, I don't think, are founded because our state legislature has now stopped cities like Salisbury from doing forced annexation. They changed the laws. That's why we were able to claw it back. And I don't think you have anything to worry about in the future. But it's not a rosy picture of what happened in the past. And I think some of the folks here are not real happy about living in an annexed part of Salisbury. And as a county commissioner, if they were to come to me, I would try to work with them and our state officials to get them freed from the yoke of being annexed by one of the cities.
I feel it's a little unfair for me to get to answer this question because I've been intimately involved in the airport for at least the last 8 years. Well, actually 10 years, even the 2 years that I wasn't a commissioner. So to answer your question very directly, if the city of Salisbury comes after the airport, regardless of whether I'm a commissioner or not, they will have a fight on their hands. You ask some people in this room, I lost the election, if you'll remember, in 2008, and the battle over annexation had not been completed. Where was I? I was on the bus going to Raleigh. I was still fighting the fight. Even though I wasn't a commissioner, I still assisted in that fight.
The airport is never going to be a moneymaker for the county. There's two kinds of income that the county looks at. It's direct income and indirect income. If you hear a presentation from Robert Van Giens on an incentive package that he wants us to vote on, he's going to tell us that for every dollar we spend in incentives, we're going to get $4 back. I went to Robert after one of those presentations and I said, Robert, I got $500,000 I want to invest and I only want 2 cents back on every dollar. Needless to say, he didn't take my money. But direct income and indirect income from the airport. We make a lot of money on selling fuel. Our fuel prices are lower than anybody around here. There are airplanes who will land at our airport for one reason only, to fill up with fuel. And we make good money on the fuel. But if you looked at the airport 10 years ago when we had a fixed-based operator, the county did not operate it, it had gone downhill just about as far as it could go. It was making no money for the county. In fact, we were paying the fixed-based operator about $150,000 a year to run it. Since the county has taken the airport over, it has stabilized. If you go out there, it's one of the most beautiful airports you'll see. We hired a director, Thad Howell, who is top-notch. He takes a lot of pride in keeping the place clean, making it look good, making it appeal good when people land there and they come into our terminal. So we've done a lot of good things over the last 10 years, and I'm telling you, if Salisbury comes after, they got to fight whether I'm a commissioner or not.
All right, who's next?
If either of you gentlemen are elected or re-elected, would you support or reject the efforts of the Central Iowa Council of Governments to get our county involved in regional contracts such as Agenda 21, Carolina Rail Thread, etc.? Red Trail.
Well, I have to tell you, Agenda 21 scares me to death. The thread trail, the thing that we talk about most here in this county, and that I've gone to a couple of the thread trail meetings and they've asked me to stop talking because, you know, it's funny how some people allow people to talk and then usually they're conservative Republicans that allow people to talk, and then there's the rest of the world that only wants to hear what they want to hear. I was a developer in New Jersey back in the 80s, and there was a thing called the Skylands. The Skylands is the same exact thing as the thread trail. It's a grab for government control of the land without an election. Okay? Putting these 11 counties together, including 2 in South Carolina, this is what they're notoriously known for, is grouping counties together, crossing state lines and county lines, and creating an entity that everyone has to go to get permission to use their land in one way or another. Okay? You can say I wear a tin hat, you can say whatever you want, but there is now a thing, and back in the early 70s, it was a group of people standing in the back of a planning room saying, we want to have a little input here. Can we tell you what our plan is? Gee, we'd like to do this. Now they have about 1,100 employees in the northern half of New Jersey. It's paid for with state money, and not one person in the building, including the directors of it, are elected. They're all appointed. Okay? That's the thread trail, folks. Now this county and its commissioners have said repeatedly that they don't want any part of the thread trail. They don't want to donate money to it. They don't want to do anything. And I go to these meetings, and Rowan County is on the screen as part of their group. They don't even respect what the officials said. I believe you had a vote at one point which said that we don't want any part of the thread trail, and they had more than 3, you know, the magical 3 that you need. And yet these people still advertise as if the thread trail is something that is welcomed in Rowan County. So as a county commissioner, I would ask for another vote of no confidence for the thread trail in Rowan County?
It's not textiles.
The thread trail is an idea that these folks have to weave an intricate set of trails. They talk about from county park to county park, so our children can ride their bicycles between the county parks. They ask developers to allow them to have access across their property. Our own Darlene Blunt has told them in the past that she would not give them access to her development, and they didn't like that, okay? But her owners, the people that help her with her subdivision, don't want to give up their right to the land. In the beginning, it's an ask. Later on, it's a request. And then finally, it's a hammer. And I've seen the hammer in New Jersey. I'm trying to explain to you folks that I've lived this in the past, okay? They start by asking, they start by cajoling, they might even throw a couple of dollars towards one of the towns or another of helping to make something happen. They have Duke Energy, they have Wachovia Bank, I don't know what Wachovia even around anymore, whichever bank it is. They have all these different people that donate money to their organization, and they do this because it's cool, okay? Everybody likes to know that they're doing something green. The people that run it have an agenda, and the agenda is to ultimately determine how properties will be developed and where they will be developed. You've had it here where they wanted to close down a couple of lanes of Innis Avenue and make it a bike lane. Weren't a group of you there for that? Okay? This is a very critical thing, and it's one of the little things that I'll bring to the county board as something to make a statement. I'll ask my commissioner partners to make a statement saying that the thread trail is not welcome in Rowan County. Thank you.
Thread trail, to me, is just another layer of regulatory activity that wants to invoke guidelines on landowners. I'm not an advocate of just encroachment on individual landowners. I would not be an advocate for right-of-way encroachment for people's farmland any more so than encroaching on other people's property to create a trail that, to me, doesn't appear to have a lot of real reality to it. Because when you're looking at so many counties and so much area to cover, how are you going to possibly compensate people if they're going to take their land? So to me, if it's a private enterprise and they want to do business, that's one thing. But if it's regulatory that the government decides, or the entity, the city or the county decides they want to take the land, or even roughly thinking it's eminent domain, that's wrong. I believe that we should have a right to say no, we don't want to participate. And so for me, it's all about what is best for the county in terms of what does it benefit. So, you know, after all this boils down, if you think a thread trail benefits recreation or parks, then you have to really come up with some good answers and some good reasons why you want to take your property or your land and create a trail through it. So that's would be my position on it.
I'm not going to talk a whole lot about the thread trail. I think it's been beaten to death enough. But I am going to, when I think about the thread trail, I have nightmares. I think about the city of Salisbury coming on my property and cutting my trees again. I think about the city of Salisbury, somebody walking in my office one day and saying, we're going to take 30 foot of right of way on the front side of your property because we're going to run a water line. And I said, no, I don't want a water line. They said, well, don't make any difference. You're going to get one anyway. And
Then they come and they cut the trees on my property and they say we're going to take a 50-foot right of way because we're going to put a sewer line through. And I said, no, I don't want a sewer. I'm completely happy with my porta-john. And they took it anyway. So I have nightmares when I think of the thread trail because that's what the start is the thread trail, but that's not the end, folks. That's not what it will be on the end. What I want to talk about is the two agencies that we're talking about. When you talk about regionalism, there's two major agencies, the Central Line Council of Government and the Charlotte Regional Partnership. And what these are, they are entities, they're 501c3 corporations that have set themselves up is they're going to do some good things for every county in North Carolina. You got 100 counties in North Carolina, and suppose all of them want to study, say a sustainability study. Well, they come up with a plan how they're going to do that, and they sell it to you, and they sell it to the next guy, and they sell it to the next guy. And what they've done is they've perpetuated their salaries. They've justified their existence because they do a lot of things you simply don't need. If the county wanted a thread trail, don't you think they could have come up with the idea? Do we need somebody to bring it to us? That's Central Line Council of Government, and if you'll go back and look, if you'll remember, the Central Line Council of Government is the agency that pushed annexation all across the state of North Carolina. That was their #1 moneymaker. They did the studies, they did all the work, and then they present it to the city and they say, look, here's all this money you can make, and we've already done it. You just pay us a little bit. So I'm one of the commissioners that voted against joining the Central Line Council of Government. I voted to pull out, and I'll never vote to go back. We don't need them, don't want them. We have their phone number if we do. Folks, let me ask you about another level of regionalism, the Charlotte Regional Partnership. Now just think about the name a minute. Does it say the Rowan County Regional Partnership? The Mecklenburg Regional Partnership would be more like it. It's all about Charlotte. You realize they had an executive director that was paid somewhere in the neighborhood of $250,000 a year, and they said we need to evaluate him and see what kind of a job he's doing. So they set this criteria for evaluation, and they did the evaluation, and he failed the test. He failed on every level. He wasn't doing a good job. Well, they said, "Phooey, let's go ahead and give him the $65,000 bonus anyway." And they did. So we voted to pull out of the Charlotte Regional Partnership, and we won't go back unless 3 commissioners decide to. Right now, you got 3 that say no. If you're not careful who you vote for, you might get 3 that say yes, because there are some running that's one of their mantras. We need regionalism. We need to control our own destiny. We don't need Charlotte controlling everything that happens within 50 miles of their radius, and that's what they want. There are times when Charlotte can help us. There are times when we can help Charlotte. I've got their phone number. If we need them, we'll call them. We don't need regionalism. Thank you.
All right, who's next? Who's got a question? Okay. You have, at the last commissioners meeting, discussed the water, or potential for putting water and sewer down the 8529 corridor. If that's done, what do you project will happen to the south end of the county as far as business and growth?
You have to be first, we all did first before.
In 1970, it was decided that the county needed water and sewer, but the people of the county didn't want it. Back then, it probably would have cost $10 million, $20 million. Now you're looking at maybe $140, $150 million. That's the reason the county commissioners voted the other day not to do a county-wide study. We realize that the growth corridor for Rowan County right now is Interstate 85. If the DOT, which by the way, has, with the help of the governor, with the new funding levels that they've done, with the help of the legislature, with the push of a lot of our legislators, they have moved that project forward. They're going to get that bottleneck between Kannapolis and Charlotte opened up.
And we hope that they're going to get us some interchange on that 6.5 mile stretch that doesn't have one, open it up for retail growth, and produce a safety factor that we right now don't have. But that is the major corridor of growth, Interstate 85. And folks, people won't come without water and sewer. Now, I hate incentives. I hate them with a passion. I've never seen one I'd vote for. But this is the kind of incentive that the county needs to be offering business. We need the infrastructure so that when they come, it's here. Instead of waiting until they're coming, until they want to come, and trying to figure out how we're going to get it. That's the reason the study will only cover that part of Interstate 85. We're not going west, we're not going north, we're going south on Interstate 85 because that's the growth corridor. Rowan County has sat in the middle of Charlotte for long enough. We've sat in the middle of Greensboro for long enough. We're primed for growth. We have the property that people want. But we don't have water and sewer, and that's a great need. And believe me, if that happens, it will bring the people. Now, how are we going to fund it? I will not put an initiative forward to the people of this county that I don't find a way to fund it. I've never done it as a commissioner. I will not do it now. And I don't want to do it with a tax increase. My vision for that is how we'll fund it is in 2020, we have $7 million a year that we're paying right now in debt service that'll be paid for. If we allocate $1 million of that for debt service, then we can leverage $10 million in debt. If we use $2 million to fund debt service, we can leverage $20 million in debt. So we can begin the process. We can't do it now because we don't have the money, and I won't vote for a tax increase to do it. But there is a master plan, a way that it can be funded. That's if the schools don't take us to court and take that $7 million away from us in 2020.
We're, in essence, business law. And by that, when you look at industry and development in Rowan County, which way is it going? It naturally is going to follow the route, which is, you used to say the tracks elect. They used to say the tracks make money, and they were referring to the railroad tracks. So that was about 60, 70 years ago. So now we fast forward to 2014. You think about development, industrial development, business relocation here in Rowan County, and what do you see? You see business, they come here. The economic development, they're doing their job to recruit. So in terms of water sewer out 29, is it spot development? Is it running water sewer ahead of time so that we can sell that as an asset, we sell that as an incentive, however you want to term it? That's one of the pillars or the strong suits that you have to have if you're going to encourage recruitment of business or industry in the Rowan County. Now, some of you sit out there and you say, well, really, what do you mean by that? Well, if you're going to bring new business to the county, what are you going to give these businesses? What type of incentives are you going to give them? I'm for incentives. In my business, incentives made the difference numerous times for millions of dollars worth of deals that we made in the pharmaceutical industry. Incentives are part of the way of doing business in this economy. However, I will say that in this recovering economy, in not only Rowan County, but also you look regionally, you look in the state, you look in the country, we're still in a recovery mode. I'm not an advocate to raise taxes to fund a project just to say that we're going to try to bring new business or new industry. There's a lot of difference between saying it and accomplishing it. So the plan to develop that corridor, 29, 85, all of that corridor from here up through the county line is an important part of the growth factor, but we have to pay attention to how that's going to be funded. And that's an important thing to each of us here in the county. Because the needs for business environment needs
that needs to, or is my top priority, because if you satisfy the business community, the trickle-down effect goes all the way down to everybody in the county. It satisfies the budgetary needs and lets growth start. So that's the way that I see the potential for 29. Everybody in this room has been down 29, or you can go down 85. You can see the difference. What do you see out there now? So when you talk about that development, you have to have a solid plan in place to sell the assets that we have. Everybody mentions between Greensboro and Charlotte. We have educational facilities here. We have interstates here. We have High Rock Lake here. We have arts. We have everything that business environment. We have educational system. We have so many things that we can use as assets. None of those assets can bring business here unless we provide the planning and the types of industry that we want to recruit.
I consider myself a long-term planner. One of the things I see as a shortfall in the past here, especially in the city of Salisbury, is a short-term plan. They mostly don't look past the point of their nose. Building an infrastructure so that industry has a reason to park here is a very good idea. It takes time to do. So Jim talks about freeing up the money in 2020. That's 6 years from now, guys. What were you doing 6 years ago? It wasn't all that long ago, okay? If we don't start, and by the way, the Post today had their paper out, they didn't even mention the fact that all five of our county commissioners agreed to look into this study. There was no animosity. They want to talk about how there's always a fight and there's always people giving them a hard time and what have you. They can't get along. All five agreed to look into this program. So I'm wondering why the city and the readers of the Post don't know that already. They do know about the bickering that happened and the people that paraded up and made comments, but it was never reported that all five of our commissioners agreed to look into a long-term plan to grow the county, to build the infrastructure so that we can have the jobs that everyone keeps asking, how are we going to get the jobs? Well, there's your answer. There's one of your answers. We're going to build the infrastructure. We're going to plan it first. We're going to make sure that we don't bite off more than we can chew. We're going to coordinate with the state in the development along 85. Instead of waiting until the last minute and running around like chickens with our heads chopped off, wondering what it is we can and can't do. It's called long-term planning. This man to my left and the other men on the county commissioner made that decision last night, but it wasn't reported by the Salisbury Post. Okay? I don't understand why. So maybe tomorrow they can report that the county commissioners in a 5-0 vote voted to plan for the future of the lower half of the county of Rowan. Thank you.
But since you're at a Tea Party meeting, you knew this would come up. I want to talk about guns. I want to talk about guns in county buildings and guns in county parks. So there's a move afoot to bring our county ordinances and laws up to state standards, some changes that took place in the state law. So I want you guys to tell me how you feel about that and tell me what's going on with it.
Well, first off, I'm on the planning board of the county of Rowan, and again, an interesting thing happened there. We were asked to look into bringing ourselves in line with the new state laws. And that's exactly what we did. A group of half of our board, I think 5 members, we have, let me just preface this, we've split our board in half. We have an A group and a B group, and we each take on different responsibilities to research a committee, basically. And then we report back to the other half of the board, explain to them what we found out, what have you. You get more done that way, okay? Work in a committee. So I happen to be on the committee that was looking into how it was we would implement what the state did. And basically all we're doing is we're implementing the laws that the state changed last year so that we're in line with them. Now there's a couple of reasons why you do that. The basic reason why you do that is if we don't allow concealed carry in our buildings and in our parks and in the library and so on, we have to be able to defend the reason why we don't do that. It's state law, okay, so we're in line with the state law. That would mean that John Bear over here, if he wanted to, if we didn't do that, could sue the county. Because we'd have to explain why we have a more restrictive law than the state does. Now, people get upset and they say, well, I don't like it and I don't want it. Well, that's the state law. So we mirror the state law by doing this, and we're just following the rules that come from a higher body of the state. If a person who doesn't like it, they can't come to the county and sue them, okay? They can't do that because it's state law. They have to go to Raleigh and they have to solicit the elected officials in Raleigh to change the law back again. It's a very simple thing. You can't just leave it the way it is. You have to address it. We addressed it. There's some more questions that are still being worked on, but we made a recommendation 8-1 on our county planning board. We made a recommendation 8-1 that we would adopt the same laws basically as what the state has. And we passed it on to the county commissioners, and they have some other questions from other departments. And eventually, they'll put that all together, and we only are an advisory board, so we advise what we thought would happen. The right to carry is constitutional. The right to defend yourself is God-given. Okay? I don't carry, I don't choose to carry. That's my God-given right. But I will fight for your right to carry. Okay? That's about it.
You know, I think it's a cut and dry thing. You want more problems if you don't follow what the state guidelines have implemented. Am I an advocate for concealed carry? You know, what can I say there? I'm a card-carrying NRA member, which I am. You know, I grew up in law enforcement, so I understand that responsibility. Do I think that concealed carry in public meetings or in schools, do I think it's a good idea? No, I don't. But do I think that if you want to carry your concealed weapon and you passed all of the guidelines and that's your right to carry, then that's just an individual thing. So it's, along with that, there comes the responsibility that all of us have in this respect for concealed carry, particularly in any open environment. In today's, particularly in today's world, you know, you have to be cautious. You have to always be aware of your surroundings. But you know, I would defend the Constitution. I would defend the amendment to be able to carry. But I personally don't think it's a good idea to carry them, you know, school property. I just don't see that as anything but a problem.
Sorry. Please understand, what we did in the planning board has absolutely nothing to do with school property. The school board and the school policies set that. There's statutes in the state level that still does not allow people to carry in schools. That is not what we address. It's strictly county property. County parks, county buildings, not the justice buildings, okay? They're excluded. I can go on and on and on, but the point is we mirrored the law of the state. And we did that to protect the county from lawsuits, basically, okay? If they were to come. We did the fiduciary responsibility. Actually, we only recommended the fiduciary responsibility. It's up to the county commission to actually implement it, okay? So it has nothing to do with schools. Part of the problem is, after I did this, and I read some things in the Post, hi buddy, how you doing? I read some things in the Post. The things that they said were not what I was talking about in the room, even though the reporter was in the room when it was happening. So I wrote an editorial as Joe Coladorsey, member of the planning board of Rowan County. Unfortunately, the Salisbury Post has a policy that if you're a candidate, they won't print your editorials. By the way, the Times, the Washington papers, the Chicago papers, the LA papers, all major papers don't have that policy. Only the Salisbury Post, okay?
As Joe stated, certain buildings are exempt from that state law for you to be able to conceal carry. But according to state law, county commissioners have the authority to determine what buildings and what properties, to some extent, they will allow concealed carry. When we sent that to the planning board, what they decided on was the ordinances that deal with our buildings and the general public. They did not deal with personnel policy. We have ordinances that deal with your property and with the general public, and we have a set of policies or ordinances that deal with our own personnel. They dealt with the ordinances that deal with the general public. They did not deal with the ordinances or the policies that deal with our personnel. So the question came up, do we want county employees to be able to conceal carry? Well, it makes common sense to me that if you allow the public to come in with a gun in their pocket, you certainly ought to allow your employee to come in with a pocket. The other question that came up was, if you're going to allow concealed carry, are you going to allow open carry? I think that question needs to be answered. And then there was the matter of personnel policy. Our personnel policy states that if you're driving a county vehicle, you cannot have a gun in that vehicle. If we allow concealed carry and that vehicle is what they drive home and drive to work, then they can't bring a gun to work, so we're violating their rights. So as chairman of the Board of County Commissioners, one authority that I do have is to determine what goes on the agenda and when. And when that item came forward to go on the agenda, I said it's not complete. I had some questions from some department heads. I had some questions from our risk department about whether we were going to allow employees to carry, whether we were going to allow them to open carry, whether we were going to allow them to carry in county vehicles. What were we going to do to address those? And those are personnel policies. And I said, before we put it on the agenda, I want all of those items addressed. I want to do this one time, and I want to do it right. You have a Board of County Commissioners that is in favor of concealed carry. I don't think there's any problem with this being passed in Rowan County. But there are some questions that had to be answered first before I would allow it to be put on the agenda, because I only wanted to do it one time. We're not slowing the process up. We're not holding it up. We're just getting answers to those questions. There's a question about our insurance. Insurance people have already told us if we allow concealed carry, we're going to have to pay a higher premium. Well, if that's what our citizens want, then we pay the higher premium. We do whatever's necessary. I do not think there's any problem. I think it'll be a very short process.
what they did is they formed a committee. The chairman of the planning board was contacted. He formed a committee of the department heads, the county manager, the risk manager, and several other people to answer all those questions, and for our planning staff to look at personnel policy to see where it needed to be changed so that it would also mirror state law. And then to answer the question, are there any areas within the county, if there's a reason for the federal buildings to be exempt, you're not complaining about that. If there's a reason for the schools to be exempt, you're not complaining about that. Is there any area of the county, any building that should be exempt from concealed carry? We wanted those questions asked. I think within the next few weeks, those questions will be answered, and it will come back before the Board of Commissioners, and I feel very confident that it will pass.
I have a question. My name is Luis Sosa, Rowan County resident for 15 years. Earlier today, Mr. Stein stated that there's a plan. My concern is related to the economy and jobs. You stated earlier today that in 2020 there's a plan to use debt service, or cash flow being used for debt service right now. It will free up in 2020. You can use that to borrow again and to build infrastructure. That is 6 years from now, and I don't think our economic environment can wait 6 years for a boost. So what do you think we need to do now as a county to attract jobs in the meantime?
There's only one option. If you're talking about $7 million, you're talking about 7 cents on the tax rate. If you need $7 million for debt service, you need 7 cents on the tax rate. Simply put, if we need $1 million, we've got to raise taxes 1 cent. If we need $2 million, we've got to raise taxes 2 cents. Simple arithmetic. If the people want their taxes raised, for us to go ahead and do that now. In other words, the schools came to us and wanted $40.5 million. The reason I would not vote for that is because the original request was for the county taxpayers to fund it, which would mean a 4.5-cent tax increase, and I would not vote for that. When we finally were able to identify that it could be paid for through creative financing, which I'm not in favor of, when we finally identified that it could be paid for with a revenue stream that we already had, then I was ready to vote for it.
This is correct, right? I might have misspoke, but my question was, my question was more, what can we do in the meantime to attract jobs to Rowan County?
Well, I think we're doing that. We're doing the study about water going down 85. We've got to find out which way's the cheapest, whether it's cheaper for the county to do it by itself, whether we ought to do it in conjunction with the city of Salisbury. The city of Salisbury has a policy of extending water and sewer lines when it benefits them. It's time for them to begin to think out of the box and realize that not only are they city residents, but they're county residents too. And that whatever happens in the county is good for the city. So maybe we can work with them, which we hope we can do, or maybe we have to go out and start our own. If we have to start our own, it's a very expensive proposition. But we're working right now. We fund economic development. We're looking at a retail development along Interstate 85. We're doing those things right now. But sir, I won't vote for a tax increase. I hadn't voted for one in the 12 years I've been a commissioner. I may have to vote for one this year. I may have to vote for a penny for RCCC, but that's one that the taxpayers have already approved. Sometimes you have to wait. I wish I had 3 hours to answer that question, but if we weren't put in a box, we borrowed $76.9 million for the school system in 2002. We were told that we wouldn't need any more money from the county commissioners for 20 years. The best I can figure, if you go from 2002 to 2013, there's still not 20 years past. We had to come up with another $40.5 million. Sir, 80-some million in debt in Rowan County, $57 million of it right now is with the school system. We can't get ahead in building schools to do the other things that we need to do. Debt service on schools is $11 million a year. Debt service on everything else the county does is $2.5 million. There simply is no more money without a tax increase. If the citizens of this county want us to raise taxes and put water and sewer down 85, I'll vote for it. But if they give me that direction, I will not.
Here in the county, we have economic development, we've got the Chamber of Commerce, we have all these business-related groups that are interested in bringing new industry here. I can give you, as I've said this before, we have, and it's on the website for the EDC if you want to look at it. They say we have 20-some global industries, doing business here in Rowan County. So when you say, okay, how do we go and attract new business? Well, that's a good place to start. We get Robert Van Gien, we ask him, have you contacted these businesses? Have you asked them who do they do related business with? Would they be interested in relocating to Rowan County? The Chamber of Commerce is their mantra, we want to move forward. So as we think about what does growth mean? New development, the new business drives growth. Dollars that are implanted here in the county from business growth improves the quality of life. So I believe that we need to hold our workforce, meaning the economic development or the chamber's involvement, our regulatory folks that work in the county to approve business license, to approve new construction. I think we need to hold them accountable for what they're doing. You can't, I believe in paying for performance. I think if you perform well, you do your job, you need to be compensated for it. If we're not doing our job, then we need to look elsewhere. We need to manage those folks out. And we need to bring people in that are interested and share the same ideas, the same vision for business. It's just one example. The 85 corridor, 29 corridor, however you want to call it, that's a long-term investment. But that's an asset that you can sell, new industry, new growth. We have this available for you. Are you interested in the county? You're not hearing me? Is that what you're saying? So anyway, you take that one single point. You address the 20 global companies here and you find out how many companies they do business with. And then you move from there to see if they would be interested in relocating here and the type of job or the infrastructure that they might want to bring here to the county. You don't have to wait to 2020 to do that. You can do that tomorrow. They can start to work on that tomorrow. The other thing is, if you're in the business community like I am, whether you're in New Jersey, whether you're in New York, Chicago, doesn't matter where you're at, and people say, where is Salisbury? What does Salisbury have to sell? What does Rowan County have to sell? It's the assets that we have here. And in my business community, in my business world, GlaxoSmithKline, they're just 40 miles up the street. The average job in that plant's about $25 an hour. Is it unlikely that a company of that size would relocate here in Rowan County? No, they would. You just have to have somebody to make that commitment to go and reach out to sell what we have here, because we have so many assets.
Well, again, 29 and 85, all these years it's set blank. Part of that is because I've done the history lesson. I've looked into the past, and Cannon and the Cannon folks, they kept their people in Kannapolis by not having access to 85. Okay? Did business at the company store. We have an exit every mile along Salisbury's property lines on 85, and Salisbury's growing. The proof is actually in the pudding. I've talked to people in the past about distribution centers. That's one of the reasons why I picked Rowan County when I moved here. I travel from Greensboro to Charlotte, to Statesville, in this whole area, because there's 3.4 million people, and I sharpen scissors for a living. So I go to beauty parlors and barbershops, and I sure can't make a living in Salisbury. There's a few, but not nearly enough. So I travel, and I picked Rowan County because in Rowan County, I have a nice place to live. I'm in the middle of 3.5 million people. I see distribution as the immediate thing to create jobs, is what your question is. We have a very successful company called Cheer Wine. We have an even more successful company called Food Line, okay? They started here, and they started here because even way back when, they were in the middle of a much smaller pool. Granted, you know, the population's doubled in the last 20 years in North Carolina, but they still had a pool that they could drive their trucks to and from. So it worked once, it can work again, okay? We have Dillard's at the far end of the exits here, and we have Audi's, which I shop at, by the way, at the other end of Spencer, okay? Distribution centers get the people that we presently have that are unemployed. They also get pickers and packers and order takers and some people for data processing and managers and everything else. So that's a quick fix, a quick way to go is to try to generate as many distribution centers as we can. But again, you can't just look at the end of your nose. You gotta do that long-term planning that our present board just did last night. Okay? They made a plan for 6 years from now. If you don't do that, you're not doing the whole job. You can't run around putting out fires. Okay? One of the other things that we've unfortunately done in this area is we've always had one industry or another. The industry came in, the industry was here for a period of time, it went away. Then we had a different industry. Diversification of industry bases settles down this up and down economic problem that we have. That's another thing we have to think about. We have one t-shirt company. Do we want 10 more, or do we want a different kind of company? Now, we'll take another t-shirt company. There are no ifs, ands, or buts about that, because we want to put our people to work. But we don't just look in one direction. Okay?
All right. I think we got time for one last question.
We haven't heard much about it recently, but I'm wondering what you guys think about the Board of Commissioners' decision to stand against the ACLU and the prayer issue, and I'm wondering what you're thinking you might do, how you might respond if elected, and it comes your time to open up a meeting, how you might handle that.
I'll go first. Well, first off, that's the first time I met Carl Ford. And I told Carl Ford 3 years ago when I first got here and heard about what was happening that I'd send groceries to his house if he went to jail. So if I'm on the county commission and I go to jail fighting this, I don't even have somebody that I live with, so you don't have to send groceries, but you could send cigarettes, okay? The right to pray is very important constitutionally. We're not a country that says freedom from religion. We're a country that says freedom of religion. I've got a couple of questions for the judge that made a list of things you could pray about and still haven't been able to figure out why someone hasn't asked that judge exactly what religion is he imposing on the people of Rowan County by selecting what you can and couldn't pray. Now, Carl Ford will tell you a joke that I told him a long time ago if you go ask him, but I'm not going to say it in public. I'm a firm believer in everyone's right to pray to whoever's God they want to pray to. And if they don't want to pray to a God and they want to pray to a tree, that's their business. You have to stand for the right of prayer.
okay? And
Praying in guns, it's the same thing, you know, it's your right. So I don't understand what all the controversy is about. You want to pray, pray. You want to carry a gun, concealed weapon, carry it. So as long as, for me, if it's what you want to do, that's what America's about, isn't it? Isn't it about the individual? Isn't it about being an individual? Isn't it about doing what you want to do, how you feel within the laws, as long as you don't infringe on somebody else? So, you know, to me, it's a lot to do about not much. So, I mean, if I'm on the county commission and somebody wants to pray, that's fine. If I want to pray, then I'm going to pray. If I want to choose not to, or somebody says they don't like it, then that's their individual right. I mean, you know, that's the way I look at things. It's how do you want to interpret that? That's my position on it.
Folks, I think you know where I stand on this. I'm the one that said that if we had to go to court, I'd spend taxpayers' money to go to court because I believe this is a Christian county. I believe the majority of the people in this county would pay to defend our right to pray in Jesus' name. We just spent $256,000 of your money to pay lawyers, and we hadn't even got to court yet. That money went down a black hole. You will never see it again. It will not buy one textbook. It will not educate one child. It will not put one teacher in the classroom. $256,000 down the toilet because the schools wanted more money. And you wouldn't pay to fight to be able to pray in Jesus' name? I believe if there's a few more people praying in Jesus' name, we wouldn't be paying so many lawyers. And I don't dislike lawyers. It's just that 99% of them give the rest of them a bad name.
Gentlemen, if you could quickly just give a closing statement.
Folks, I'm not running against anybody. I do a little bit of picking. I say if you can't have fun, stay at the house. Mr. Roosh said that his drug company gave incentives and that's how they succeeded. I wondered why I had to worry about hitting the donut hole when my medicine was so high. I didn't know it was about incentives. I'm glad he told me that. But I'm not running against him, and I'm just picking and carrying on. But this is a serious election. I have never in my life seen a movement like what I've seen in Rowan County against one candidate. And folks, if you want me to go home, I can go home unapologetically. I won't apologize for anything that I've done as a county commissioner because to the best of my ability and my heart, I have tried to protect your rights as citizens to do what you want on your property. I've tried to protect your rights not to be taxed double and not get double service. I've fought to keep your taxes low and to provide the best possible services we could to the citizens of this county at the least possible cost. I will not apologize for that. And if you elect me to another 4-year term, you're going to get the same thing. What you see is what you get. There ain't nothing else. I ask you to go out on early voting, vote early, vote often. If you die tomorrow, please go vote the next day. I need your vote because the move is to knock me out in the primary. This election is not about me. I do not need the $12,000 a year that the job pays. Now, if I'm elected, I'm going to take the check. If any one of you in this room would spend the amount of time that I spend doing my job as a county commissioner and put as much effort into it
as I do, I'll give you $25,000 a year, but I'll do it for 12. So give me another opportunity to serve you. I want to serve two. I want to make history in Rowan County. I want to serve 2 consecutive terms. There are a number of things in Rowan County, positive things that we've done in years past. We built buildings one after another. We came in under budget on all of them. We've made positive change in Rowan County, and I know you hear a lot of negative. But folks, it's not all negative. A lot of that is created. It's false. It's created to change your mind, because let me tell you, the devil is not going to come to you and tell you that liquor is bad for you. He's going to show you the picture of the people standing there with the breeze, with the little lake running by, and the pretty girls, and he's going to show you all the good things. He's not going to tell you you're going to go home that night sick as a dog hanging over a bathroom toilet. It's propaganda that's being spread that there's so much trouble in Rowan County. If there weren't good things happening in Rowan County, Gildan would not have come. If there weren't good things happening in Rowan County, we would not be getting a retail center along Interstate 85. If there weren't good things happening in Rowan County, Duke Energy would have left. They would not have built that $600 million plant over there. I could go on and on and on. But this is a very important election. It's not important in November. It's important on May the 6th. Please tell everybody, go out and vote in the primary. I want to win with enough votes not to have a second primary. Tell everybody you know, vote for Jim Sides on May the 6th.
Well, folks, I'm in the same position as I'm asking for your vote. I have a number of these cards. I've bundled them up in 10s. If you like what I've said, and if you know me, I'm asking you to pass 10 out to your friends. Our website is on that. You don't have to explain a whole lot to them. Just direct them to the website, and they can listen to me babble on and decide whether they want to throw roses or tomatoes. I would like to do this job. I think I've tried to express to you that I think forward. I think through things. I try to come up with a solution. I have 40 years of experience. I've made a lot of money in my life, and I've lost more money than most people think about. So I've been on both sides of the spectrum. I don't know exactly where I am right now. But I'd like to do this job. I think I could bring some good, honest thought to what we're doing, and I'd like to be able to work with Jim Sides. So many people, when I say that, want to throw gasoline on me and light me up. Luckily, they don't carry enough gasoline. It's way too big for that. But I honestly am asking for your vote. I have these cards. I need your help. Name recognition is important. Brandon Cupp and I were the only 2 people that asked why we weren't in alphabetical order. Turned out I should have been, if you actually did alphabetical order, I should have been last on the ballot. But it seems that a politician determined how you do alphabetical order. And it's in alphabetical order with the first letter in reverse, but not with the second letter. And that's why Brandon is last and I'm next to last. I'm the 7th person down. I'm the only one named Joe. Don't worry about saying Cullen Dorsey. You don't have to know how to do that. I'm asking for your vote and your support and your help to get your friends and neighbors out. Okay?
I'll be brief. In the pharmaceutical industry, we do have incentives if you fall in the donut hole. All you need to do would be to write the company, and they'll be happy to provide you with whatever medications you're you're taking. So Jim, if I can help you, you need just to let me know, because I do still have some contacts within the pharmaceutical industry. My candidacy is pro-business. I think it's been pretty consistent. You know, I want to see a growth industry in the county because I believe the trickle down from business, from industry to come here, I think that is the key to improvement. I believe that is the key to a better quality of life. I think that's the key to wages and jobs that people want to relocate here. We use the assets that we have in the county and we just simply sell them. So it's pretty simple on the ballot. I'm number 2, David Rush, and I will tell you this. I'm serving on the county commission. You know, you'll get straight answers from me. You'll get respect from me. You'll get the absolute best I can do. And in my business environment for the 30 years that I was involved, the decisions I made were always based on good, solid reasons. But I'm not foolish enough to say that every decision I make is the right one. And if it turns out that there's a better path, I'm fully prepared to listen and move forward with ideas that help to promote Rowan County. So I ask that you vote for me May the 6th. Thank you.